Hello, it is Thursday on the Wednesdays, which means you're here with the Crimson Angel 100, and I'm here to give you another installment of Once Upon a Style. Now, I'm not really going to talk about this week's episode. I'm probably going to save that for next week, depending upon how big and spectacular it is, but I want to mainly focus on today's installment of Once Upon a Style. And I would like to say that I want to, starting now, giving shoutouts to people who actually I choose their submission, because I feel it's rude of me for not giving a shout out, for people, because you want to see it and you kind of want to. So today's submission comes from Narnie and Griff 23, and you wanted Snow White / Mary Margaret, and you were very nice to narrow it down for me and say Snow White in her wedding gown, which was in the pilot episode, and the hat scarf combo that Mary Margaret wore in the episode Dreamy. Now, since I have season 1 of Once Upon a Time on DVD, it is very easy for me to just go back to any episode and just pause it on any scene and just be able to, draw out any costume for any character. So here is, of course, Snow White / Mary Margaret. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little intimidated to draw the wedding dress because of all the feathers, but, there was really no shortcut. You had to draw all those lines, or else it wouldn't look right. So, overall, I think it came out pretty nice. Let's just zoom in on Snow White for a minute. There you go. Mary Margaret. Now let's first start off with Snow White, since she was Snow White first, and then she became Mary Margaret. So as Snow White, she is a completely re-envisioned design opposed to how she is in the Disney animated counterpart, which I actually appreciate. She has a pristine, clean, fresh new look. She wears a lot of white, a lot of pale colors. And I noticed she also wears a lot of white flowers in her hair. Here in her wedding costume, let's zoom in a little bit. She has like some flowers in her hair, and even when she was pregnant with Emma, she had like flowers in her hair, and even as young Snow, she had like, not as much, but she had like a little flower in her hair here or there, and it was like the same little white flower. So I thought it was really nice that she was always had like this love and respect for nature in a way, and it showed like that innocence and that purity that she had, and her always wearing very pale colors, very, very, very pale colors. Even as Bandit Snow White, she wore very pale beiges and whites. So like in comparison to like the Huntsman, who wore very more neutralized, darker browns, she wore very, very pale browns and pale beiges. Now, as of course Snow White, there was in one episode she wore a bright pink dress when she was younger, when her mother died, and I really thought it was out of character for her to wear a bright pink dress, like a generic princess dress. And when she spoke and when she had that like attitude, I was thinking, oh, that's why they put her in the bright pink dress. That is to say that I'm not saying that all girls who wear a bright pink color is not a brat, but I'm just saying that for her, it just seems so out of character for her to wear that bright, intense color, because at that moment in time, she herself was very intense. And not until after her mother died did she become more demure and more of a strong leader for her kingdom. And she felt that responsibility at a young age, and that's when she wore the more softer colors, and she softened her outlook on everything. So she became that demure, soft, strong, confident person. You know, and as Mary Margaret, you know, she does also still have the very pale colors. Very lots of whites, lots of beiges, lots of pale blues. Pale colors. But there are some times that she wore like a bright, red cardigan, or she wore like a bright, like purple or whatever. But It was like when she was going out or whatever, but for the most part, she was wearing very pale colors, and it comes from like a quietness, a shyness. But Mary Margaret's softness is different from her as Snow White, because with Snow White, it comes from her being demure. It comes from her like being able to rule the kingdom like as a princess. But with Mary Margaret, it comes from an insecurity and a shyness and her being unsure of herself. So that's where her modesty and her shyness comes from, and it shows that she's always like covered up to her neck, and she's always wearing these cardigans and these layers. She's always wearing layers and layers of fabric, and I think because with Mary Margaret, everything's been stripped away. Her long, beautiful hair, her confidence, her her love, everything has been ripped away from her from this curse, and you know, despite I'll say this in a sidebar. Despite the fact that her long, beautiful hair was taken from her, I think she actually looks adorable in the pixie cut. I'm gonna say that now. I know some people are probably gonna bite my head off for saying that, but I think she looks good in both. I think she looks cute in the pixie cut as Mary Margaret, and I think she looks beautiful as Snow White with the long hair. I think she looks beautiful as both. Because she's one of those characters and one of those people that could pull off both. So anyway, I actually really like this hat and scarf combo, and she worn this coat a lot. And this particular coat, and this particular scarf, and this particular hat in this episode was all white, including her gloves. So everything in the upper half of her body was white. The only thing that wasn't was like her pants or leggings, which was like a pale gray, and her boots were like a darker brown or darker, not exactly black. It was probably like a very dark brown, but you know, it's like, so she always wears lots of pale colors because it comes from her as Mary Margaret not wanting to stand out and wanting to blend in and wanting to not be noticed by anyone. With Snow White, it's more of a sense of purity and a sense of being demure. And I think I pretty much covered everything. And you know what? I really love this wedding dress design. And she's worn a lot of other nice dresses on the show Snow White, but nothing kind of beats the pilot in my opinion. And even for the Evil Queen, that's probably one of the most iconic looks for the Evil Queen. And here's just a nice close-up. Try to zoom in there as much as I can. It is more cartoony, but So I'm going to end it off here, and I'm going to say on to you, as I do at the end of every episode, and what character would you like to see in next week's installment of Once Upon a Style? Now, if I don't do it in next week's installment because I'm probably going to talk about the finale, then do not fret, I will do it in the following episode. And since you now know I have Season 1 on DVD, you can pick any character pretty much from any episode. If you want a specific outfit from that character, you can pretty much just shout out anything, and I'll try and freeze frame and use it. And like I said, I'm going to start doing shoutouts. So if I decide to use yours, I will shout out and tell you whose it came from. Like I said, this one came from Nardi and Griff 23, and tell me what you think of this one, and don't be shy and leave the suggestions in the comments below.